Okay, welcome to tonight's 5 charts in 5 minutes. Gonna have a look at a bit of a mishmash of charts tonight. That's WPG, that's one we're going to have a look at, but I'm going to start actually with the XJO, just to give you a quick rundown of my thoughts of where the market's going. Actually, I don't really have any thoughts of where the market's going. Everyone seems to think we've run a little hard and are due a pullback, but just wanted to have a look here at this is basically a 20-year monthly chart. As you can see, there's pretty much no period in that 20-year monthly chart, except for the last 2 years, that we've been in a sideways range. You can argue we're in an uptrend, probably the last year or so within this sideways range, but it's pretty much the only period along there that we've got any sort of sustained sideways movement. So you'd think sooner or later we've got to break out of this sideways pattern. Whether that's to the upside or the downside, I have no idea at the moment, but if it is the upside, there's no reason to think that there isn't some sustained upside ahead of this still. So yeah, I'm not convinced yet. Obviously within this little range, it's not a very big chart here, but we could very easily still test the lower end of this range before we try and break up, or we may break to the downside. As I said, I have no idea, and I try to have no idea, as I keep mentioning like a broken record. I really want to try and just follow the price action and not have some kind of preconceived idea of where things are going. Alright, pull another chart up that I've already done today and have a look at this one. This is SLM, which we spoke about quite a bit in the Convol chat window today, in fact for the last few days. It had hit a low down here around 355 and has basically struggled for the last few weeks to break out of this range. It's had one little attempt here a week or so ago and failed, and then there's been some pretty solid resistance around this 370 mark. I've been building a position down here, as I have mentioned in the Convol window, and so I've been watching it pretty closely, and there was some automated selling first at 366 and at 368. Yesterday they came to 370, so whenever anything above 370 came, it was just being smashed down. The interesting part for me was that yesterday there was some fairly strong volume and a lot of cross trades, which often signify we're close to a change of direction if something's been fairly severely pushed one way or another. So it was on high alert to add when I saw the cross trades yesterday. An odd numbered sell appeared on close at 370 yesterday, which may well have been the last of this persistent seller, and he was taken out with some authority in the morning. So I did this chart mid-morning. This has actually closed up here at 393, but just a couple of things I wanted to point out. A couple of gaps here. Obviously this one's now been filled. The next one's a tiny little gap right up here at around the 410 mark. Look how well the fibs actually pick out those areas. I've run the fibs from this previous high up here in early 11, up in January sometime, down to these lows, and the fibs almost perfectly pick out all the key areas. So the previous support, the 38, the 50 is basically previous resistance there, and the 62 is that next previous gap way up there. So pretty impressive how the fibs pick the key areas of this chart. So keep in mind now that it did close up here at 393. In fact, we might just go to a full screen current chart of this one. There's SLM there, closed at 393, definitely filled this gap. Some decent volume on it again today. No reason why we couldn't see that 410 figure if the market conditions are okay. And that's probably my immediate target, but obviously if we get some fairly sustained weakness overseas, I'll reassess that and take some profits off the table. Okay, so that's SOLMAT. Next one I'm going to have a look at is WPG, that came up on the scans tonight. I'm not in this one as yet. Key areas of interest for me here are little triangle formation, basically there and there. If you can see that triangle, equilateral triangle we're looking at. If we wanted to forget this little drop tail and take the closing price there at say 62.5 up to about 72.5, looking at about a 10-cent depth of that triangle. We assume the break was here at say 70. Triangle target could be anything up around the 80. It's definitely broken this downtrend line here. Let's run some fibs on it, see if they can give us any clues. Okay, so if we run a fib, maybe from this one to here for a start. So the 50 is a little ahead of here, about 77.5, 62's up mid 80s, so there's some areas that we may look at. As you can see with that mid 80 area, it probably picks up those previous areas of resistance as well. If we get rid of that one, and run one from the very top, see if that gives us anything. So again, the 38 this time picks relatively that same area. So turn that one off. That's the 5 minutes up already. So that's probably our first really key area of resistance to look at, around the 80s, and onwards and upwards from there. A little bit of consolidation here and here that we'll probably need to keep an eye on for the next step. So that's WPG. Like I said, it was the volume that got me interested in that one today. You'll have to excuse my throat today. I'm fighting off a bit of a bug. So, all right, I'll do two more quick ones. APG is another one that's been mentioned a little bit in the chat. That's the 12-month chart. As you can see, big volume day today, and it's just stuck its nose ahead of this previous 9.7 res. So it closed at 9.8, obviously approaching the 10-cent tick change, where we start getting our 5% ticks there. So a lot of potential with this one if it can break through there. We go to a weekly 5-year just to get an idea. 10's obviously been resistance before. And again, we can almost whack some fibs on this to see if that gives us any indication of where we might be looking at for some targets. Normally these 10-cent tick change plays, I'm often in under the 10 and just looking for the 5% for the scalp to 10.5. Or if I do get that, I'll cover some at that quick scalp and then give put a trailing stop on the rest and see if that can keep me in it a little longer. Okay, so as you can see there, excuse me 1 minute. Okay, sorry about that, got a phone call. Alright, so as you can see, the 38's right there on the 10. The 50 does pick up quite a few of these little areas of previous resistance around there, which is at the 12, so that'll definitely be the next area we'd be looking at some sort of resistance to kick in. And again, as you can see, the 62s pick up these next lines here around 14. So 10, 12, 14, they seem fairly straightforward levels of resistance. But really good volume kicked in early part of this year. Best volume since back basically in 2007 when it was going crazy. So yeah, that's one of interest. And we'll do one more quick one. Well over the 5 minutes this time. Let's do a CTP, which is another one that came up. Actually, we'll do MAH. It's another one that we were talking about in the convol window. That's the weekly. We'll just go to a daily. Right, that's 12 months daily. As you can see, it's been in a sideways range for some time now. Just hasn't been able to kick through this range. Really good volume today. It actually broke that 58.5 resistance. Best volume it's had for basically 4 or 5 months, I'd imagine. Looked pretty impressive. Noticed after close it's had a speeding ticket from the ASX, which astounds me, but that little move was worthy of a speeding ticket. But anyway, I got one and said there'd been some media speculation that it was subject to some takeover approaches, but they basically denied that, so this may fall back into this range tomorrow, or there still may be something to it and we might get a kick on. Obviously there's a gap to be filled up here. 65's the first obvious next target, but worth watching with that volume that kicked in today. Alright, that'll do for now. I'm starting to lose my voice already, so I'll wrap it up and talk to you again soon.